Welcome back and thank you all for the patience. Again, I hold shift with Brex on the horn for Hawkeyes taking on Bearcats. Seaside hardpoint. You can't phrase it up better than this. Hopefully the 20-minute time torch was worth it, my man.
I hope so. So let's see if all this icing does anything to both teams.
We have Cincinnati starting things off. They'll be wearing in the white. It will be Iowa in the home-colored yellow, and it will be first blood going the way of the Hawkeyes, and a second as well. The SOG looking really nice. And it does actually get taken down by a team kill, able to actually find this outer ledge, which is really actually a pretty nice spot to hold down, as it will allow for these rotations to kind of come in and out kind of fluidly. Although, as I say that, Cincinnati does find some success on that patio. Looking to re-challenge it. Oh my goodness, Omi has having himself quite a game so far. He's sitting at 4-0. Looking to get more involved in the kill feed as Icarus, as he's able to come on in, able to clean up everything on vending, and it will be Iowa resupplanting themselves on the point 10-5 as we go.
Yeah, exactly. So it looks from this side, Iowa definitely won this break, even though it's getting a little contested right now by Cincinnati. We're looking at it, and set up in the back, we have Lion. He's set up from Iowa. He's holding the back white spawns.
And Iowa's actually put themselves out of the contention of that last point. It was the Duke holding down the remainder of the scrap time, so able to put it within 5 as the score goes to this Tomb Hill. The Duke is actually going to be in a really nice spot from the side. We're able to find one, looking for the second, but Icarus rose up to the task, and it will be enough to at least keep the point in contest for a short amount of time, just trying to play out his life as long as possible. But Cincinnati, as you mentioned it, looked for the flank to get those spawns, and they will be able to find the control and get themselves in the point first. But Omi catches one in the middle of a reload, looking for a second, not able to find it, but his life does get traded away.
And Omi was the player that we were waiting for in that break, but he is coming out shooting. He's firing on all cylinders. This is his way of apologizing to the team. I'm sorry I ran a little late, but here I am. I'm here to play. He's rocking a 2KD at 8-4 right now in KIA. And now
this is right around the time that you see the push through coming out here, Brex, and you can see it. Icarus trying to clean up everything in orange. Oh, wow, able to find those last couple of shots as they're going to be a recontest. No challenge yet, as Icarus will just wait for a teammate, but does he know there's a player behind him? Wow, that was some timing and game sense. Able to find one double challenge, though, so will be peeked away. But again, all of that time going the way of Iowa, and you can see they've put themselves in this concert hall. The spawns are here, and now all of a sudden, even though there is a lead for Cincinnati, Iowa is in a position to flip this one right back.
You know, and I put that play on Marklon. Marklon was pushed up about to where Orange was, and they left the back fountain spawns open. If he would just pushed back and just waited for some help from his team, they wouldn't have got flanked by Iowa, and then the spawns could have still been in their favor for this hill.
And Mark looking really solid, just holding down these stairs. Will try to get out with his life, but will not be able to do it, as CJ is able to help out a little bit with his kills. Omi also being taken down, so Cincinnati, after that little initial break, will actually find a lot of time, although they do not retain the spawns for this second kind of hit coming out from Iowa, so there will be a break coming out due to that proximity, but Cincinnati will just back up, let that scrap time go to Iowa, and set themselves up inside of the barrels, which is a very highly contested point, especially as we look at the lead. Anything can happen as Iowa tries to contest, but look how hard it is. The ICR just finds absolutely no success, as Iowa is just absolutely stunted here in this little closet area.
Exactly. Now we got the entire team of Cincinnati. They're heating up. We got King Ray on a 3, the Duke on a 2, Mark Lauren on a 3. They're just picking up the kills inside the hill right now, and they're just soaking up all this time to put themselves further and further in the lead.
King Ray actually will be stunned, almost caught one with the concussion out. Hildy will be able to help out with the assist, and now the big flank coming in the back end, but King Ray doing a lot of work to lock things down from one side, and Mark Larn from the other. Cincinnati just winning gunfights that they really have no business winning. Iowa not quite up to the task, at least as of yet. TAC 5 already being used for Cincinnati, as they wanted to find as much of this hill as possible. It's nearly a full hold so far, Brex, and as you set things up for the second rotation, this lead is very scary.
You know, in the last 30 seconds prior to that 2-piece, there was 2 kills in the kill feed going towards the way of Iowa. Cincinnati was just winning all those one-on-ones. They were picking up all those gunfights and soaking up all that time. Now as we rotate back to first hill, we see Iowa, they're picking up the time. They were in there first, they rotated. But now we got this fight for middle control with Hildy, and unfortunately he gets cut down.
Yeah, Hildy was in a really good spot to put some extra pressure from the middle, but that will not be the case. Unshocked. We'll hit him from the outside. A little shot punch coming over the middle, looking for a third straight. Not quite able to train in the aim assist, though, as CJ wins it out with the ICR. And now it just comes down to who else can help contest for Iowa. Anatolia is the next one up in line, and will take down one, and he's got some support with him. So potential for a break, but not on the watch of King Ray and the Duke, as they're able to take them down very quickly. Point still retained by Cincinnati.
You know, it just seems to be a repetitive theme so far in this game. Iowa, they're whichever hills they choose to rotate to, because they're not rotating, they're just not as a team, they're not going. But whenever they do get set up first, they tend to get the first 10, 15 seconds, and then Cincinnati comes right in and just breaks the hill super easily. Now, like we were saying before in the pre-desk, these rotations are so important, and breaking these hills are so important. And Cincinnati just seems to be doing a great job of getting into those hills and breaking them.
It helps too when there's a sniper's nest overhead, which of course I'm sure most of you have heard has been plugging away. King Ray, the owner of that, also has 2 more score streaks left if he does so choose to use them, but we don't imagine seeing any of that until potentially the Fountain Hill coming up next in just 40 seconds. And as we take a look, the Duke is just sitting on point, just getting free time essentially. And that stat line that we mentioned about everybody just getting, sharing is caring on the hard point for Cincinnati is 100% boding true, as King Ray will be one of the last players here. But again, nobody from Iowa able to contest, or at least offering to contest. The sniper's nest is putting too much pressure on the map, and we're getting closer to 200 for Cincinnati as they're just dominating the hard points left and right.
You know, King Ray is playing great right now. He's got over a minute in the hill. He's rocking 20 and 7. He's on a 1 kill streak right now, which isn't much, but he was able to get fully streaked out, and he's just doing a lot for his team. He's being Mr. Do-It-All right now.
And Unshocked now with the War Machine trying to hold things down for Cincinnati. A lot of specialists available. Hildy able to find 1 kill for free on CJ. It's turning around for another, but won't be able to do the chance. King Ray will drop the Hellstorm for 2 more. That'll be enough to swing a point. And now we're looking at 200 plus, counting to that 250 mark, and things are not looking so great for Iowa. They do pop the TAC 5. The grab slam comes out for Duke, but he's not quite able to get over the railing and responded as Omi. So now all of a sudden the counterattack for Iowa looking alive and well. It just comes down to, can they break these spawns apart? CJ wants to, and he's got 1 close, but another one peeks the corner, and that SOG will win those fights 9 times out of 10, including that one. And it looks like Iowa will see their hopes and dreams dashed on this fountain point.
Yeah, you know, on the side of Iowa, they invested Grab Slam into that, breaking that hill, and it didn't even look like they were about to, you know, be able to break the hill, get the time, take control of the hill. But they came out on top for the remainder 20 or so seconds of that hill. Now rotating back to court, and it seems that, you know, they're just not rotating. They're not winning those gunfights.
Tempest is being utilized, though, for Anatolia for Iowa as they look to try to get closer to that 100 mark. And the Annihilator as well for Lion, able to find 2. Goodness, those are well found. Looking for another, but the Tempest will actually help with the assist, I believe. And now it just comes down to 1 more possible push to break for Cincinnati before you have to consider your options. And they're actually going to pop the TAC 5, which the Annihilator doesn't care how much HP is there, but the SOG up close. Lion not having the discipline to hold the long angle, so it will actually be potential break for Cincinnati. The trophy system taking care of what would have been a good cluster grenade, but it doesn't make too much of a difference as you see Cincinnati winning out the gunfights. They're sitting at nearly 240, 10 more points to go. Iowa in dire straits at this point. They're winning a couple of trades, but you have to win the ones on point, and it looks like they will eventually sustain it, so they will get up to above 100, but it's going to have to be a perfect game from here on out for Iowa, Rex.
If I'm Cincinnati right now, I don't even worry about the scrap. Even if I'm off spawn, even if I spawn close, I'm not even worrying about that time. I'm sending all my guys. We're rotating to Restaurant Hill, and we're getting these last few seconds that we need, which looks like is what they chose to do. But even though Iowa was able to come through, get the first initial seconds on the whale. Oh, I was holding
for the second, but yeah, Iowa just playing their lives out nicely. But of course, naturally, as we say it, Unshocked comes in with a sock and finds himself 2. And that'll be enough to clean the rest of this match up. The Bearcats of Cincinnati looking solid. A little bit of a hellstorm there at the end. A little bit of insult to injury, just to let you know I had it. And we'll take a look at the Duke one more time. But again, Brex, just really clean gunfights, clean rotations out of Cincinnati. Really kept Iowa from having a shot at coming back at this one. And it really came down to, again, I hate to keep harping on this for Seaside, but this Fountain hard point was played so very well for Cincinnati, including some nice shots there from Duke to help shake off those points.
You know, the rotations that were coming out of Iowa, they were just clean. Even when they weren't able to rotate, when they weren't able to get that initial hill time, they were breaking. Their breaks were clean. I feel like their comms must have been clean. Everybody was peeking things properly. They were peeking together. Just overall in general, some beautiful hard point by Cincinnati.
You take a look again. Look at that objective time. That's the big key, as of course there are a couple up top, but the fact that Hildy and Unshocked, who were able to get themselves involved for as long as they did, that just speaks again to what you mentioned, those clean comms for the side of the Bearcats of Cincinnati. And Again, a valiant effort put together. Again, no really performer on the side of Iowa that was underachieving. I mean, there were a couple obviously sitting up top as Omi had a really good start to the round and Icarus picked up near the middle portions. But regardless, the 250 to 111 is still pretty convincing as far as how the swing of the game was going. Most of it coming up for the side of the Bearcats of Cincinnati. And as you look for search and destroy, that momentum after having that very dramatic kind of switch up in the rosters has to start to kind of toll on you just a little bit as you go into map 2.
You know, and by looking at the scoreboard here, you can see that it wasn't a huge difference in damage output per team. Everybody's really coasting along that 2 people breaking 4,000 damage and everybody else being in the 3,000 damage range. But that just shows the level of knowledge that Cincinnati has.
Yeah.
Of the maps, of the rotations, their comms, picking up the right cuts, pushing out the right cut. Things like that. These are things that make you go from putting up the same amount of damage as your opponent and still blowing them out of the water.
Yeah, and it's, I think, to the other side of thing too, is where is that damage being funneled to? Is it effective damage? Is it damage on the point for kills that actually matter? Because if you're winning a couple late gunfights where it's essentially a 1-on-3, is that damage really mattering all that much in the scheme of things? That time through, I think the scoreboard would speak for itself, where the answer would be no on the side of Iowa. But again, anything can happen on this search and destroy. There were a couple of really close moments when it came to the hard point. And again, Seaside, a very polarized map when it comes to how those gunfights are fought. As you transition to a map like Arsenal, a lot more flexibility because there are those long lines of sights as we look at the outermost extremity parts of the map. And then, of course, if you want to get involved in the middle portions with that window, the vent, and of course, the inner kind of laboratory area, there's a lot of very tight action that can occur in close quarters.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And there was one pivotal moment of that hard point where I feel like there was a miscommunication on the side of Iowa, where Lion pulled out his Annihilator, and he was able to pick up 2, but there was 3 flooding inside barrel, and he just slid out into 3 guns, just pointed right at him. You know,
I think those moments are really big too when you take a look at just, again, specialist efficiency when it comes to these more amateur style players. Those are things that we don't typically see, and we anticipate not seeing very much of as we get closer to February 4th and the CWL regular season starting off. But again, these kids are juggling majors, minors, and of course some competitive COD. So there's a lot more going into it, but those are moments that you look as the season progresses all the way up until April to hopefully improve upon if you're, again, like a team like Iowa who seemed to struggle a little bit in the specialist department last map.
Agree, but you know, new map, new S&D. Let's see see if Iowa could try to turn it around. You know, a lot of these players that form these CCL teams and play for their colleges, they start out in an S&D scene and they see the Discord and they just try to get into this and they pick up Respawn.
Yeah, I mean, that's big. And this is one of the only opportunities that I can think of as far as outside of the 1Ks and 2Ks, if you put together a team to participate with game battles, that it gives you the opportunity to play more of these hard point and control style maps. Again, S&D has been pretty much one of the only points as far as being able to compete as the game battle scene has gone through. But regardless, we'll leave that point for another time as we are going to get into this one. 4-on-4 is the action after a trade happens over by the A site, and Lion actually barely able to escape as he took a slug to the butt by the looks of it. And we'll force out a rotate as the sniper from A has been called out, and it will be just a full rotate for Iowa towards B.
Mm-hmm. And if you see, we'd really like to see how King Ray does during this round. He pulled out the sniper. He was really feeling himself the last map. So let's see if he can put anything on the board, make something happen with the sniper here. Wow!
Oh my goodness! King Ray. You call it and it comes true. Talk about shutting down your push right there as King Ray able to take down one. Anatolia, very dramatic 1v3, and yeah, you're just going to go off the map. But actually, he takes a little bit of damage, and will he be able to get out without being credited to a kill? And it looks like Anatolia, some mistakes will not be mistakes in this instance, but regardless, the round will favor Cincinnati on the back end of a nice little peek and poke from King Ray.
Yeah, that was just a nice, clean round coming out of Cincinnati there. They had their positions, and, you know, when you have King Ray, he's feeling himself. You know, King Ray watching over you, and he hit a shot like the one he just did. You play your bomb site, you play comp, you know?
Absolutely do. We'll switch the sides and go into round 2, though. And again, not the most dramatic round, as there were, of course, kills accredited, or at least assists accredited to most of the players in the game. King Ray still sticking with this sniper. Wants to look for a jump peek left side, and oh my goodness, King Ray! You pull out the trombone and see if you can get a tune out of it, and yep, that thing's perfect pitch. And he finds one and a second. King Ray, goodness, can he find the third? King Ray, put that away. There are ladies present. You can't just pull that out in public. Goodness gracious.
Can we just stay on board with King Ray?
All game.
Yeah, let's just stay on board with King Ray. This guy's a walking highlight reel with this sniper.
Goodness
Just
gracious. So nice. We'll see it twice. Why not? Finding hard scopes, finding jump peaks, finding little quick shots. All three things being shown in good fashion. Holy cow.
Just nasty, nasty things coming out of King Ray right there.
You love to see it. I don't care who you are.
You love to see it.
Well, we'll go into round 3 and try to calm ourselves down a little bit if we can.
I don't know if I
we're
can.
taking a look at King Ray again. Setting up pretty nicely for B, but this is the right call from Iowa. you get pieced up by the sniper rifle. You just go middle, and Mark Larn is ready for it. All the information is going to be given. Anatolia, though, able to find out one. So now a 4-on-3. Iowa looking to get aggressive as they lean towards A. The bomb has been dropped, and a nice cluster nade comes out from Shock, but we're left with a 2-on-1, and it is King Ray. Does he have more magic in the tank?
I think it's possible. You know, he seems to be really feeling on the sniper right now. Challenging confidently with the Mozu. He's going to back up. Just take a nice peek at A.
Oh my goodness, if he hits that, I'm done.
Oh, if he was
I'm just putting my headset down and walking away, leaving this rest of the cast for you, Brex, if he hits that shot.
You know, I wouldn't have been surprised. I really wouldn't have.
Goodness. But this is a nice play from Anatolia to try to swing things back, talk about getting your team involved. Go ahead and find yourself 3 kills as you push aggressively right up the gut, and you gotta love it. And now as you move forward, it's what do you do for Iowa to try to put this one back to 2-2? Again, all that momentum on the back end of the scope from King Ray. If you can just find a way to thwart that, all of a sudden, Cincinnati might start to doubt themselves, but the hot hand, you've got to figure, is definitely in tune with King Ray.
Yeah, definitely. And on this round, we're going to see a B push out of Cincinnati. They picked up from Crash's special equipment, they picked up those assault packs. So they get that little extra damage on wall bangs.
Oh my gosh, what a cheeky spot that was. Able to find himself 1-2. Could he find the third? Not going to be able to do so. King Ray unfortunately taking out a teammate, so it could have been a 3-on-3, but the Duke from behind will leave Icarus in a really rough spot, and this is a good bail for Iowa just to reset themselves. They know the bomb is down. King Ray needs to find a weapon. We'll just use the Mozu because why not? And now a 2-on-1 CJB with the clutch in hand for the possible 2-2 draw, but it looks like the bomb will be planted.
They're just letting him do this at this point. They're just letting King Ray do whatever. King Ray spots him. And another one!
Goodness gracious.
King Ray.
There is no overselling this kid right now.
No, none. None whatsoever. Let me tell you one thing. He tries to get into 10s tomorrow, he's getting picked.
I'm not signing up. I mean, you can't do this to him. The snipe and then the Mozu quick switch. She does take down one, but regardless, leaves them with numbers, and we'll see another one at the end of it. So we're looking at 1-3 the score as we go into round 5, and you take a look at specialists as they're getting closer and closer. Naturally, King Ray at 7-1 is very close to having that Tempest if he even wants to pull it out, considering how he's been doing with the Paladin.
You know, King Ray's pretty close. He's the only one on his team decently close to getting his specialist, but no one on the side of Iowa even close to getting their specialist. They just can't seem to get anything together. Shift.
They are leaning towards B, although first blood will happen a little bit closer over the middle in the lobby, which is the timing of it not so great as there was not a full committal hit to B, so it was well accepted from Cincinnati, at least to delay it 4-on-4 as the trade did eventually come down. Unshocked, the sole player defending A. He gets tagged up hard, and that's going to make Anatolia dive on in, but Unshocked, oh my goodness. What a bold peek that was, almost turned it into 2. Now it's just King Ray, and this is not a situation that he gets out of, I don't think of.
No. Nope. You know, even though there wasn't a pick out of it this round, King Ray did go. He went to his usual sniper spot over by B. And Anatolia, I believe, they just keep peeking that angle on the outer gun. They just keep peeking it over and over again. And, you know, you keep peeking that, you're going to get picked. You see King Ray's doing it round after round. He's getting these picks. Yeah. I don't know why they continue to keep hitting out a gun. It doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. And that's where a lot of the success on the back end of that scope has been so far. But, of course, you know, A does offer a line of sight that could favor King Ray. But as we go into round 6, we're just with a 1-round differential. We've been singing the praises of King Ray so far, but the differential match points is just not so hard, as CJB actually getting himself involved again on defense, as ICR has done nicely for him in the last couple rounds, sitting on a 3 streaks. Started off 0-4, but he's figured it out as such. And how about more? My goodness, those are nice shots from CJB. And another, goodness, CJ on 5. Looking for more, but Omi's on the back end of it. Will take down the bomb carrier. And another one from CJ at range. I imagine we'll see that one from his perspective this time through. And that's exactly what Iowa needs to continue to have if they want to find some extra pressure over the long range that King Ray has dominated so far for Cincy.
You know, that perfect round coming out of Iowa is just what they needed. Now they're tied back at 3. That's what they needed for their confidence. I think we're going to have an interesting round coming out of both teams this round. Let's see what they choose to do, but that was huge for their confidence, huge to bring it back to a level playing field.
Well, someone had to step up, I think, for Iowa to kind of at least match the narrative that King Ray has put up so far. He is 7-3. After that round, CJB is 6-4. Getting himself involved with at least all 5 kills, 4 of them going to his name. The 5th one went to Omi, but he put in a lot of the pressure, and the TAC 5 will be used this time offensively for Iowa, and I like the call of it.
Nice blood by Cincinnati with a good trade coming out of Iowa.
And Icarus has been the player kind of with the drama funneling. He continues to hit middle, and this time we'll find 2. Looking for a 3rd. Actually shoulder peeks and finds it, but nice bailout there from the dude. We'll just reset for the 4-on-3 potential retake. Not favoring the defenders of Cincinnati, but the bomb will be planted at A, so we will see the defenders rotate on over. And can King Ray swing this one back to an even 3-3? If he even gets the opportunity, it might even be considered a mistake, I guess, if you're looking at this from the perspective of Iowa.
Yeah, you see, we're just... Oh, some fights going down on the bomb site. King Ray peeking over the 4th. Ah, he gets cut down. The kills just... What was that?
Got himself. As we had some internet connection issues potentially, but it looks like might be back around. At least I see you clearly, Brax.
Yep, I see you now.
All right. But a nice round from Icarus and CJ. Able to put this one essentially all knotted up.
That was huge for Iowa to come back from their deficit. But, you know,
yeah,
the Duke really needs to start stepping it up here because King Ray was being able to carry for the first round. King Ray was 7-1. Now he's looking at a 7-4 score line. And it just needs to be coming out. They need to be able to spread that weight equally amongst the team. And you look on the side of Iowa. Omi is 8-3. CJB 7-4.
Oh.
Omi with 2.
Big play, as Anatolia was the one to scout everything out. Omi kind of did a zigzag slalom run through the guns and was able to find himself 2 off the grab slam. But the bigger keynote here is the fact that we're still stuck with a 2-on-2 after the trade. And you have to figure with 100 points off streaks for CJ, you kind of wanted this round to just protect the president here. Get him a kill or an assist and give him full streaks, because on this map, you get a sniper's nest, you're going to be able to control so much space, and now it just comes down to him having to clutch into a 1-on-2 just to get the streaks, let alone the round, and oh, that's fortunate.
CJB picking up the sniper's nest. He doesn't need to do anything. He just needs to wait.
Do you invest anything here? Do you possibly ping the lightning strike just to see if you can get a clutch off of it and make this go through 5-3? You've got specialists close.
You do, but I feel... CJB, he's got to be feeling himself right now. He probably feels that he doesn't need it. He says save it just in case, you know. But who knows? We might see something invested when the bomb does go down. But it looks like CJB's going to get some great timing.
Oh, but can't win the gunfight as King Ray just jump peeks him. And it would have been a bold call, but you have to think that you at least ping the lightning strike to shake him off the bomb, especially as you have the timer ticking down. Maybe you even hellstorm it, but give yourself the 5-3 advantage, and now all of a sudden, we're not there. We're looking at a different storyline completely, and all of a sudden, Iowa maybe missed an opportunity.
You know, 5-3 and 4-4 are very, very,
very different.
Very different. They change your mindset going into the next round by mile. So, but we do have streaks on the side of Iowa now, and let's just see how this plays out. Let's see if they choose to invest it immediately to try to get a first pick.
God, you just look at the score, it would have been 5-3, and the only specialist available was still for King Ray. You could have put this one out, and King Ray finds himself 1 kill and a second with the beatdown, and it will be the lightning strike coming out. And what value does it find? The answer is absolutely nada. And you have to think maybe this is potentially a collapse from Iowa, although they were able to trade away one. It's a 2-on-3 situation. It's kind of interesting, though, as Unshocked is all the way on the backside of the map. 2-on-2 as the Duke comes in looking for the trade, able to find one, but the 1-on-1 situation to be left with CJB with the bomb. And does he know the players behind him? No, he doesn't. And all of a sudden, Cincinnati put themselves on map point. There's only one phrase I can think of, and it's absolutely you hate to see it if you're an Iowa fan.
You know, Shift, I'm going to keep it 100% real with you. That entire gunfight sequence that was just on bomb right there gave me a headache. No coordination, no comms. Everybody was just peeking, you know, lying on the bomb, just, you know, snaking up and down, bouncing these gunfights. Just coordinate a peek, hit the site, you would have got.
Yikes. And now all of a sudden, I guess if you're CJ, the heroics have to come down to you, as he's the only one really doing all that much work with Omi again, and he's got himself the Hellstorm and a snipers. And you got to think with the specialists that could potentially be coming out for Cincinnati, of which they have a Tempest, they have the War Machine close to an Annihilator. Just so many tools in the shed, and first blood and a second as well. Things not looking so great. CJ, this is your time, my man, and it has to be yours, as now the Annihilator is being used. Able to find 2 is Hildy. The Hellstorm coming out. Can he find the player, though? The hip fire is good enough to finish off before the Hellstorm comes down. And goodness gracious, Brex, I don't even know how we could potentially go back and rephrase this one as putting any kind of a silver lining for Iowa, because everything started off so well. In the mid-rounds especially, things started to look convincing, but you don't streak. It could have been 5-3, and all of a sudden, you ended up 6-4 overall, and here's Hildy's play with the Annihilator.
You know, they were doing so well in the mid-game. Their calls were right. They were rotating properly. Their comms seemed to be on point. But, you know, when you just don't close out like that, it just makes you think, well, what was going through your head? You just ultimately, like you said, you just hate to see it.
And, you know, on the other side of things, again, I will try to salvage some of this situation for Iowa, because I'm sure they're going to go back and watch this. And here's the big thing is, it's early, okay? It is still very, very early in the collegiate season as we go through this season 1. First week of gameplay. CJ, he might not have the most S&D experience when it comes to those kind of situations. You live, you learn, you hit the streaks next time hard, my friend, and you're looking at a different storyline. And it's one of those things that, yeah, there's a lot of pressure. You're already kind of putting your team in the backpack. How much more do you really have to do? Situation is a 1-on-1 for potentially putting you on map point. You're feeling the pressure. Again, the spotlight's on you. There's a lot of factors, but hopefully you could go back, learn from it, and next time through, you'll have ice in your veins to be able to make the right call.
You know, and if you're Iowa, you're really feeling down on yourself about that. If you look at the scoreboard, you know, the Duke on the side of Cincinnati, he only got 578 damage on that.
Yeah, that feels bad.
In an 10-round game of S&D, dropped 578 damage. That feels bad, man. It really is.
But on the flip side, you have to take a look, I think, you know, phrasing this for Cincinnati's perspective, you know, backs up against the wall. They're able to obviously have a star-studded performance at the very beginning from King Ray. Things start to slow down, and all of a sudden, Hildy shows up, Unshock shows up, and everyone kind of matches up to essentially what King Ray was able to start the precedent off of. And you have to feel pretty good about this if you're the side of Cincinnati. You capitalize on a mistake from your opponent, whether they do it or not. But the fact of the matter is you did capitalize, and you swung a very dire situation for this Arsenal S&D back in your favor. You made a really clean comeback, 6-4. You have to feel pretty good about that one as far as how Cincinnati executed.
You got to feel great about that. You know, when we take a look at the stat sheets from the previous stats from Cincinnati's previous game, surprisingly, King Ray is sitting at a 0.7 KD in S&D. The lowest on the team by far. And, you know, just to come out swinging like that, show everybody, hey, listen, I kind of flubbed our last series. That was just the mind thing. I'm back. You know, it must be good to feel that way on the side of Cincinnati.
Absolutely. And they could potentially close out another 3-0 here. We saw it on the screen for a second. Our control will be at Seaside, and we're just going to kind of let that sit in the chronicle of history as we, you know, pass on from what that point was. We'll just, you know, let that sit there and lie as it is. But as we think forward to Seaside control, again, for me, it comes down to, can you successfully break into A? And when do you choose to do so offensively? We've seen a lot of teams so far on Arsenal control hit A first, which is definitely the more hotly contested point. Here, as you have the church kind of encompassing the A point on Seaside, I would like to see, again, Cincinnati with their control being up 2-0 in the set, look to push forward and maybe give a quick hit to A to start things off and try to catch Iowa off guard.
100%. I'm really going to be looking out for the break on this. I feel that control general as a game type is really break based. If you're able to get a good break and you could 5-hit a site, you can get those ticks in like it's nothing, and that relieves so much pressure off of you going into the rest of the round.
Absolutely. And again, control, we've seen a lot of dramatic things happen here on Seaside. And it just, for me, kind of comes down to, can you establish the momentum and the pacing of the game first? Again, it looks like Iowa looking to play a little bit more on the passive side of things, where Cincinnati has been nothing but throttle so far. And as we get into this one, I expect to see something very similar. I imagine, Brex, you're probably on the same page.
Yeah, but it was just a 5v5 head match over towards me.
And you're going to take this one for a second as my perspective crashed, so try to get back as soon as I possibly can here.
No problem, no problem. So right now we have Unshock sitting in the hill at over B. They're about to secure the first pick. Oh, but Unshock runs out of hill to clean up a kill. And now they got the first tick, hit at B in favor of Cincinnati. They're 4-stacking in the hill right now, and they're about to get their second tick. Uncontested. No one from Iowa's even running in that direction.
That's the last thing you want to see is I am back in, so we'll just continue on forward with this. And again, the life lead also not favoring that of Iowa, as the B will be captured and point A already being contested, at least for a small amount of time. Unshocked on the left-hand side perspectively will try to take over these staircases, which is huge for potentially opening up the spawn camp, but won't be able to find that last shot needed. Still a 5-life differential, but it looks like Cincinnati just taking their time trying to set up an approach here to A.
Yep. Unshocked finally gets taken down. That was his first death in this round of control, in this game of control for that matter. He picked himself up a lightning strike. And now it's just a congestion of gunfights, congestion of kills, trying to get into that hill. See what can happen on that point.
That first tick already being there essentially means that you only need to break out once, and with King Ray finding one kill, there are even numbers. A 3-on-3 battle, for all things considered, make that essentially a 3-on-2, but if you can win out more, Hildy, my goodness, this is such a good position of power sitting under this white band. He can just sog everything up, and you look at this, Shock from the other side, able to fight a crossfire, and they're able to clean up everything, and now all of a sudden the stack onto A comes through, and Iowa with only 5 lives left. It looks like it's just about all over, but the singing on this first round, and well, those sings will be of joyous hymns for one team and solemn kind of not so much for the other, as Iowa will struggle through in this first point very convincingly, going the way of Cincinnati.
Yeah, that was a really convincing round coming out of Cincinnati. When you're Iowa and you decide to give up a point, just to try to, okay, team, regain, we'll set up new, we'll give that one up, let them have it. You got to win those gunfights when they come for the new point. Because what's the point of just sitting there and just sitting around? Okay, we'll give it up, and then when they come, win the gunfights. It's just a failure in strategy, in my honest opinion.
But look at Unshocked. I mean, this is just how available he has been able to get free and move in a very aggressive position. And what do you do if you're Iowa in that situation? Obviously, the answer kind of unfolded in front of us, and Unshocked sitting on his first streak, looking to potentially build towards more, and it comes down to how defensively they need to set up. It will be 2 towards A over the middle, as it will be free, and now moving over, the contest will come over to B. And who will find first? Icarus Rose with the first one, Omi with another, so all of a sudden numbers, but Hildy has been so good with the SOG, he will be shut down. First tick of capture will be there just before the contest comes through. Not that it would have made much of a difference. And Atoli, with the last player left alive from both sides, will try to soak up as much capture as possible, but there will be another team fight happening here at B, Brex.
Yeah, right now they're just trying to contest. Cincinnati's running into, they're trying to contest. They don't want to give Iowa those ticks. They don't want to give them that objective. To them, that's just something they got more time to fight off at A.
And they will actually get in there just before that second tick could be completed. So it will be depleted in its fullness. Even lives, all intents and purposes. Although there is a couple of trades happening over the middle portion of the map, as it looks like Iowa wants to try to set up some kind of a right side hit perspectively from their view towards A, but it gets shut down immediately. The only player there is Omi, who's able to very nicely 180, so a little bit of silver lining here, but not able to find the second, so essentially his life thrown away for not much progress whatsoever, although now the respawn will come out and they'll hit back towards B once again, and Iowa with a couple of trades will find maybe some success if they can break one or two more kills rather. Pardon me as I stumble on my words a little bit. Icarus will be able to find those 2 aforementioned kills. So all of a sudden, potential capture of B coming through.
You know, I feel that there's got to be something going on with the team of Iowa right now because they're regrouping. They're pushing hills together. They're pushing the point. They're grouping up. They're getting together. They're going, but they just seem to lose the trades every time. Even when there's less people to contest for them, they just seem to not get those trades together.
And look at just these aggro challenges from Duke. I mean, typically you see people just sitting in this little side patio, just sitting and waiting for people to poke out. But Cincinnati says, go, go, go. Put this car into overdrive. And with only 3 lives left in less than 10 seconds, the hopes and dreams of Iowa capturing a point have essentially faded to null. And we'll be looking at a 2-0 scoreline going into round 3. Cincinnati are now at this point just running away. And you have to think, again, from Iowa's perspective, from the hard point, a couple of missed opportunities on the rotations and the search and destroy. Obviously, we know what happened there. And things just seem to be going downhill in the control.
Yeah, and at this point, they're just letting Cincinnati just run through them. We look at King Ray, 19-7. Unshocked, 19-5. Hildy, 17-7. They're just winning all their individual ones, even piecing Iowa. So at them, if I was Iowa, my main goal, slow it down, win these trades, get these gunfights in, group up, get numbers on the other team.
And it looks like from this point forward, it's just going to be on the laurels of how Cincinnati wants to play. It's been kind of just been, you know, lead a horse to water so far for how this has been going for Cincinnati, and they're soaking up every drop. Looking to set things off offensively, Iowa will be meeting up against Cincinnati over here at B, but there are a couple players who are going to be late on the rotate, so it comes down to who can win up these point fights, and Anatolia and Lion able to find a pretty decent trade away, so we'll go Iowa's favor, at least initially.
Yeah, Iowa wins that break, which must be great for their confidence right about now. But I feel on the side of Cincinnati, they're not sweating it. They're just like, okay, we tried something, didn't work. Let's do what we did the last 2 rounds. And we see them now. If you look at the kill feed, it's usually mostly going inside the way of Cincinnati.
Absolutely is. The Tempest also being utilized, although that will be taken down pretty quickly. And now it comes down to what else from here for Cincinnati as they're trying to get this first tick of capture. Icarus will actually get really aggressive, just sliding down the stairs and finds the beatdown, but it comes at the cost of their lives, so it comes down to just the last tick needed. But Lion here to try to contest, attack 5 being used in response for Cincinnati, and it looks like that might be enough to help them survive. Mark Larn finding 2 kills will aid in that effort, and it doesn't look like Iowa actually will. They'll contest one more time, and I don't know if I agree with that call. They come in 1 by 1, and that's just free fodder for Cincinnati to pick up in the kill totals.
You know, I hate to be the one to mention it. Look at this scoreboard. We got Anatolia, 4-16. That's really hindering the performance of the team total, you know. No one's saying you got to go double positive, but at least you got to try to pick up the slack on yourself. You know, rocking a 5-16 score is just really gets down on you, you know.
Essentially, at that point, I hate to say it, but it kind of feels like you're playing 4v5. And with score streaks and specialists being utilized, this is quite the task for Iowa. They're going to have to play a pretty perfect hold here, just down 5 lives. No specialists to use as of yet. A couple players still holding onto the 200 HP, but the Hellstorm now from Mark Larn coming out, trying to spawn camp with it. And it looks like he'll hold on for as long as possible. CJ will not like this. Oh, actually, he doesn't get hit by it. But now unshooked, he's got himself a nice war machine, and this is going to be dangerous, especially if he gets that window. But he actually just nearly misses it. So 11 on 4, but progress at A is starting to mount up, and we have lightning strikes, we've got sniper's nests, we got everything overhead, none of which are favoring Iowa. It just comes down to a matter of time, unless these 3 last players for Iowa can make some miracles happen. Naturally, I say 3, and it turns to 2. Still not over yet, though, but it's looking a little bit dire mid-reload, and now it just comes down to Anatolia. Can he make it happen with the Tempest? Hits 1, but not going to make a difference. Cincinnati closes things out. 3-0 on the control, 3-0 in the set, and they'll walk away very nicely placed here in the Midwest region.
You know, just like the speech I gave out, you know, on the pre-desk, it's the first map is just so big. You know, you come out, you get smoked first map, you kind of, it's really hard to regain. You know, they almost had it. They were almost able to regain in that S&D, and then at the last moment, the pressure just got to them. They choked the streaks, just didn't go in their favor. That control just showed. I really feel that by the 3rd map, their heart wasn't in it. They weren't playing. I think they were demoralized towards the end there.
Yeah, definitely as the set went on, you could kind of see the differences in the teams as far as, obviously where they stand in their current state. Of course, again, a long season ahead of us. This is just, again, the tail end of January. We'll be going into the mid parts of April with this first season officially of the CCL. So a lot of room for improvement, I would say, for Iowa, but not the cleanest of performances through and through, as that was a pretty dire moment in at least in parts of the search and destroy for Cincinnati. So, I mean, a lot of takeaways for both teams, but again, you got to kind of come back to the bigger narrative here, which was that drop away from Iowa's roster before the set. And the question was kind of posed, was it the right call? And I think the question just gets reemphasized here with a pretty staggering 3-0 defeat to Cincinnati's hands.
We wouldn't know. At this point, you got to know, you got to understand, who knows which way it would have went before,
Yeah.
But at this point, it was just a great performance by Cincinnati. Even though we could say this is a new roster coming out of Iowa, it's week 1, new roster, their first game, they're getting the first game jitters out of the way. It sucks to be the team that your first match you get a loss.
Yeah, and I think for Iowa's perspective, you would have loved to have a chance to go at least that 4th map, and you had it, again, right in the palm of your hands, and then it just kind of flips through your fingers. But again, that's been 3 sets of action for you guys tonight. We will be continuing to do coverage of the Collegiate Call of Duty League throughout the entirety of the last bits of winter, of course, into the spring. You can find broadcasts happening here every Tuesday and Thursday, starting at sometimes 6, but definitely 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, that's been Brex on behalf of J-Pros on the back end of the production and Stents from earlier. I've been Alan. I hold shift on a Frio. You'll see all the standings and all of the updates that you want to catch on the Discord. You can find those links either below in the info box or ! Discord, I believe, works in the chat for you guys. A pleasure having you on board for us tonight. Have a wonderful and safe weekend out there. Not too many keg stands, all you college kids. And we'll be back on Tuesday for more collegiate action. I've been Shift. Until next time, hope you keep holding it down. Later.